Hello, Hello, everyone. I'd like to see you wave, just so that I know that you're listening and watching. I'd like to start with a question. What do you think Sierra Leone would look like if we held ourselves to the same standards we hold our leaders? What do you think it would look like? And this is not a rhetorical question. I'm not just asking it because it's part of what I want to talk about. I really want you to think about it. Would Sierra Leone be better or would it be worse if the same way we talk about our leaders, we chastise them for not doing this, not doing that, if we held ourselves to the same standards, would it be better or worse? Better? Better? Would it be better? I know it's a hard question. It's hard, isn't it? But it's a necessary one we need to ask ourselves. Because the truth is, if we think Sierra Leone would be worse, then the problem is not leadership, right? It's citizenship. Then that means we also have to ask ourselves questions like, what do we value? Do we value honesty, sincerity, fairness, or just when it's convenient? Do we value justice or silence? And then if we think Sierra Leone would be better, then we also have to ask ourselves another strong question. What's stopping us? What's stopping us from acting how we expect our leaders to act? So John already introduced me. My name is Antonia Howard. I am a journalist, a media and communications professional, and most importantly today, I'd like to say I am a Sierra Leonean because it's the one identity I've never had to change or question. I carry it with me everywhere I go. I spent nearly a decade in traditional broadcasting. I was on AYV, mainstream journalism, reporting both locally and internationally. But then in 2022, I left full-time journalism and transitioned into advocacy. Now, some of the reasons I left were very practical, like the hours didn't quite match the pay. I know I'm a book journalist. But also, I wanted to be a part of shaping what could happen rather than just reporting. So I joined Purposeful. Do we know Purposeful? A global feminist, organization that works with and for girls and young feminists, not just in Sierra Leone, but across the world. But while I was at Purposeful, I was doing meaningful work, and I'm truly grateful for the experience, and I'm proud of what I contributed there. But as time went on, from 2022 to 2023, and we were moving closer to the 2023 elections, I started feeling that sense of responsibility I had as a journalist. If you remember, there was a new term, proportional representation, which I thought many people were hearing for the first time. Many voters were hearing for the first time. And so around that time, I launched a video series called Elections Insight, which was basically a civic education project, something I felt that I could do to just share information and get citizens to meaningfully engage with the upcoming elections. But not long after I launched the series, I realized that really my true calling was to Sierra Leone. And whilst I was at Purposeful, I was doing global work. Yes, we were talking about Sierra Leone, but my village people were calling me. And so I felt indebted to Sierra Leone. So, long story short, I left Purposeful and I co-founded Black Lion Productions with my partner, which is where I now work full-time. But all that long story is just to say that throughout my journey from the newsroom into advocacy and into what I do now, one thing has remained constant. I've been telling stories, whether it's writing, whether it's through video. Storytelling has been the constant thing throughout my journey. And stories shape the way we see the world, and more than that, I think they shape how we act in it. Stories help us understand who we are, where we are now, and they also help us to imagine where we could be. And now I've come to accept that storytelling is not just what I do, I think it's how I serve. And I see my former boss here from Purposeful, the Minister of Information. He also left to serve, right? So today we talk about digital storytelling, the power to reach people where they are. On our phones, our iPads, through the internet, and in the different formats we engage with, whether it's reels, short videos, you name it. Now, a single TikTok video or an Instagram reel or even a WhatsApp voice note can reach millions of people faster, more than any TV or radio broadcast. And for me, I think that's not a shift in format. It's not just a change in technology. I think it's also a shift in power. Now, you don't need to be a journalist to tell stories. You don't need the fancy degree or fancy equipment or even a media house behind you. All you need is one device, access to the internet, and the courage to use both with intention. And that's how I started my podcast, Honestly Speaking. It's a platform where I am trying to confront not only what holds us back as Sierra Leoneans, but also explore what can move us forward, not just as individuals, but as a collective, as a nation. Because if we want a better Sierra Leone, then we need to understand it. And to understand it, we need to reflect. We need to talk. And not just talk, really talk, ask the right questions. Talk about how we live, how we work, how we lead, and how we hold each other accountable. When I started, I asked the question, what would Sierra Leone look like if we held ourselves to the same standards we held our leaders? Because I think too often when we talk about accountability, we talk about it as if it only belongs in State House or in Parliament or just with public officials. But the truth is, accountability should be everywhere. It should be in our classrooms, at the market, at the banks, in our WhatsApp group chat, even in our decision making. Accountability is what should guide us when no one is watching. So, you dey throw away dirty at it, but you dey complain say salon dirty. Yeah. It asks for your ear. Or you're paying a bribe for your child to be promoted to the next class, and then you expect a corrupt, free country. Right? So, I'm really not trying to shift the responsibility from our leaders because God knows they owe us a lot. But what I'm trying to do is to help us acknowledge that at the end of the day, leaders don't fall from the sky. Right? They're not just come on any side. They come from us, citizens. So good citizens make good leaders, and bad citizens make bad leaders. So while it's hard to do the right thing in a system that just often doesn't reward it, if we want the moral courage to hold power accountable, we first have to be honest about our own power and how we use it. And thank God, in this digital age, we have more power in our hands, literally, in your phone, your computer. And that gives us the power to ask questions, the power to share truth, the power to document injustice, and the power to demand better without waiting for permission. And I'll borrow the words of my sister, Hawana Tukono. She said, you don't have to be perfect to be powerful, right? And that is true, because across the continent, we've seen how tech-enabled youth movements are reshaping accountability. From Nigeria with the hashtag #EndSARS, we like to compare ourselves with Nigeria a lot, and then to Kenya more recently with the hashtag #RejectFinanceBill 2024. We, young people, have the power to hold to account and demand change. So the question is, what's stopping us? Why aren't we doing it? And this is not a call for us to go on the streets and protest, because I see the ministers are looking at me like with one eye. But I believe that we can demand change louder and in much more smarter ways. We have the Chief Minister here and the Minister of Information. I think they're two of the most active public officials online. And so we have a really good chance here that whatever we post will be seen and may even be responded to. And the response is not always what we want to hear. Sometimes it's just, we will deliver. But at least they see it, and they hear our thoughts as citizens. They hear what we need. And if we can do that, then we can go to bed with a clear conscience that we tried and we asked, right? We can ask more questions with the power in our hands. Like, why is it okay for public officials to break traffic whilst we're still waiting in line? We wait for them. We can ask why we have normalized the return of people who have been accused of sexual harassment or sexual assault. They come back like nothing happened, and we just move on. Or why are we not outraged that the court case involving the death of a promising young woman is dragging? And why are we not asking questions about the suspicious death of a promising young man? Why are we also not outraged that 3 children who went to school one day were found dead, 2 were found dead, and 1 in critical condition? And we've just moved on. Again, like nothing happened. So why are we not asking about the amended Child Rights Act, which has been in Parliament for a very long time? And children like those you see in the picture, and especially girls, continue to die from harms that the law could help prevent. In Sierra Leone, I think too many stories are buried before they're even told. And sometimes all it takes is one voice, one question, one post to interrupt that silence, to say, this matters, and we won't be silent. You can see we're all silent now. But storytelling isn't just about pointing out what's broken, right? It's also about showing what's possible. As a community, we have a responsibility to uplift and to amplify the good too, right? And in the words of the famous Vicky Remo, who is the most recent guest on my podcast, she says, "Yeah, no fine. The country no fine. But there's some very fine people here who are really striving to make it for themselves against all odds. And we have a responsibility to shine a light on them. We need to spotlight those people too. Like the Sierra Queens, our national women's football team, giving us something to cheer about, winning the women's tournament in Mauritania. Like our 2025 Miss Sierra Leone, Lacheve Davis, who placed in the top 2 for Africa of Miss World's Beauty with Purpose platform. Like Oswald Dundas, a young man constantly innovating to solve community problems. And like the young, brilliant minds in this very room whom we've heard speak over the last couple of days. I think digital storytelling helps us balance the outrage with hope, because accountability without hope is just bitterness, and no good can come from that. So today, my call is, whether you're a journalist, a TikToker, an activist, a minister, or even the president, every piece of content is a chance to hold the mirror up to ourselves. What value are we creating? What standard are we setting? Because I think at the back of our minds, we all know no one person can change or fix this country. Not a president, not a minister, and not even a poor journalist. It has to be collective. There has to be a cultural shift. It has to come from all of us. But if we all the ask, say, how for do, then Udat's go do 'em. Thank you all for your attention.
All right. Thank you, Antonia. Thank you, Antonia. So the strength of storytellers, it gets you spellbound, get into your mind, deal with your thoughts and emotions, and then prompt an action at the end. So she has, exemptionally done that this afternoon. Thank you very much. The voice